Did you know that the helicopters you see flying over the jungle in Apocalypse Now weren't just rented for the movie? They were real war machines, borrowed from the Philippine Army, and some of them had just returned from real battles. You can almost feel the heat, hear the distant thump of rotors, smell the gasoline and wet earth. This wasn't a set. It wasn't pretend danger. The jungle was alive, the storms were real, and the actors weren't always acting. They were surviving. Francis Ford Coppola didn't just make a movie. He walked into a storm and filmed what happened. And somehow, out of that chaos, came a masterpiece. Let's dive in and discover 20 weird and amazing facts about Apocalypse Now. Number 20. The helicopters were borrowed from a real war. The famous helicopter attack scene where Wagner's Ride of the Valkyries blares as choppers swoop over the beach wasn't shot with movie props. Those were real UH-1 Huey helicopters borrowed from the Philippine military. At the time, the Philippines was fighting rebels in the south, and Coppola struck a deal. Let us use your helicopters for filming, but only when they're not needed for actual combat. Sometimes filming had to stop mid-scene because the Army called them back to fight. One afternoon, the crew waited 3 hours for the choppers to return, and when they did, the pilots were still dusty, sweaty, and tense from battle. The actors didn't have to pretend to be scared. You can see it in their wide eyes. That wasn't acting. It was real fear. Number 19. Martin Sheen had a heart attack and kept filming. Martin Sheen, who played Captain Willard, was only 36 when shooting began. But the heat, the stress, the long hours, it all caught up with him. One night in the Philippines, he collapsed in his hotel room. He had suffered a mild heart attack. Doctors told him to stop, immediately. But Sheen made a quiet choice. He got back up. He filmed the next day. In fact, the scene where Willard punches a mirror in his hotel room? That was filmed just days after his heart attack. Coppola didn't know how serious it was until much later. Sheen later said he felt like Willard, lost, searching, barely holding on. His pain wasn't written in the script. It lived in his bones. What looked like rage on screen was real exhaustion and courage. Number 18. Marlon Brando showed up unprepared and overweight. When Marlon Brando arrived in the Philippines to play Colonel Kurtz, everyone froze. He was supposed to be a terrifying, godlike warlord, lean, intense, glowing with madness. Instead, Brando stepped off the plane, overweight, unshaven, and without having read the full script. He hadn't even read Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness, the book the movie was based on. Coppola panicked. They had 1 week to shoot all of Brando's scenes and no time to reshoot. So they got creative. They filmed him in shadows. They shot him from behind. They used whispers instead of shouts. And in the end, his quiet, haunting performance became legendary. He didn't play Kurtz. He became him. No fake darkness, only real mystery. Number 17. Dennis Hopper was so into his role, he scared everyone. Dennis Hopper played the photojournalist, a wild, twitchy fan of Kurtz who speaks in riddles and worships chaos. But here's the weird part. Hopper stayed in character for weeks. He wouldn't break. He talked like that off camera. He paced at night. He startled the crew by suddenly reciting poetry in the dark. One time, he startled Martin Sheen by leaping out from behind a tree, screaming, "Do you know who you are?" Sheen nearly punched him. Coppola loved it, but the crew started avoiding Hopper at lunch. His energy wasn't fake. It was electric, unpredictable, dangerous, not just acting, but real possession. Number 16. The opening scene took 18 takes and a real breakdown. The very first scene, where Captain Willard lies in a dark hotel room, sweating, staring at the ceiling fan that sounds like helicopter blades, was supposed to be simple. 1 room, 1 actor, 1 emotion. Despair. But it wasn't working. Take after take, Sheen looked tense, not broken. Then, on the 18th try, Coppola whispered, "Just lose yourself. Forget the lines. Just be him." Something clicked. Sheen closed his eyes and let go. When he opened them, tears were rolling down his face. He didn't say the lines, he groaned them. The fan whirred, the camera rolled, and everyone on set fell silent. That take? It's the one you see. No fake tears. Only real surrender. Number 15. A typhoon destroyed the entire set, twice. The production built a massive riverside village set in the Philippines. Huts, docks, bridges, everything. Then, nature said no. A massive typhoon hit. Winds over 100 miles per hour. Trees snapped, boats flipped. The village washed away. The crew rebuilt it, brick by brick. 2 weeks later, another typhoon struck. Gone again. This time, Coppola didn't rebuild it the same way. He said, "Let's film the ruins." So they shot the attack on the village in the wreckage. Mud, broken wood, real storm damage. You see it in the chaos. Soldiers slipping, smoke mixing with rain, children crying in the background. That wasn't set design. That was survival. What looked planned was pure improvisation. Number 14, The Water Buffalo Sacrifice, was real and controversial. In the final act, when Willard reaches Kurtz's compound, you see a ritual. A water buffalo is sacrificed. Its throat is cut. Blood pours onto the ground. Many thought it was fake, special effects, rubber, movie tricks. But no, it was real. The local tribe agreed to film their actual ritual, an event they'd been planning for months, as part of the movie. Coppola filmed it as it happened. Animal rights groups later protested. The crew argued this wasn't cruelty, it was culture, and the tribe wanted it filmed to show the world their traditions. The scene is haunting, powerful, hard to watch. Not fake blood, only real reverence. Number 13. The famous surfing scene almost got canceled. Lieutenant Colonel Kilgore, the surfer who loves the smell of napalm in the morning, was almost cut from the script. Early drafts had a more traditional Army officer. But then Robert Duvall read for the part. He brought energy, humor, and danger. He insisted on surfing, even though he'd never really surfed before. The crew built a fake beach at dawn. They brought in real surfboards. They waited for the perfect wave. But the ocean was flat for 3 days. Then, on the 4th morning, the wind shifted. A small wave rolled in. Duvall paddled out, stood up, and fell. He did it again and again. By take 7, he caught a wave and rode it, wobbling, grinning, glorious. Coppola yelled, "Keep rolling!" That imperfect ride? It's in the movie. No stunt double, only real determination. Number 12. The entire cast got sick, except one person. The jungle heat, the rain, the food, the water, it all added up. Malaria, dysentery, heat stroke. Within weeks, almost everyone got sick. Crew members passed out. Actors threw up between takes. Harvey Keitel, originally cast as Willard, got so ill he left the project. That's why Sheen replaced him. But one person stayed healthy. Lawrence Fishburne. He was only 15 years old, playing the young gunner, clean. While adults collapsed, he ran through the jungle, climbed trees, ate whatever was served. He later joked, "I had a teenage immune system and a stomach made of steel." The others called him the Jungle Kid. He wasn't acting tough. He was tough. Number 11. The sound of helicopters came from real recordings. Most movies use fake sound effects, someone banging pots, twisting metal, editing in the studio. Not Apocalypse Now. Sound designer Walter Murch wanted real helicopter noise, so he and his team flew out in a tiny plane right next to active Hueys, with microphones strapped to the wings. They recorded the exact sound of blades chopping air, engines roaring, wind screaming. One flight got so close, the pilot radioed, "We're in their rotor wash. We could flip." Murch just kept recording. Later, in the editing room, he layered those sounds with Wagner's music and created one of the most powerful scenes in film history. No fake noise, only real danger. Number 10. Francis Ford Coppola almost quit. Twice. Halfway through filming, Coppola called his wife Eleanor and whispered, "I think I'm going to die here." The budget was exploding. The schedule was collapsing. The studio was furious. He wrote a letter, resigning as director. He even packed a bag. Then he looked at the footage they had shot. The mist on the river, Sheen's quiet, intensity, Brando's shadowy face, and something clicked. "No," he said, "this movie has to exist." He tore up the letter. Later, during the typhoon, he almost quit again. But Eleanor told him, "If you walk away now, the storm wins." So he stayed, not just directing, but fighting. What looked like genius was pure, stubborn love. Number 9. The river wasn't a river. It was 3 different ones. The Nung River that Willard travels up doesn't exist. There's no single river in Vietnam or the Philippines that looks like that. So the crew stitched it together. In the north, they filmed wide, muddy stretches. In the center, narrow jungle canals. In the south, fast, rocky rapids. They shot over 18 months in different seasons, so the light, the water level, even the color of the trees kept changing. Editors worked for months to make it look like one journey. You never notice. The river feels real, deep, endless. But it's a dream, built from pieces of truth. No single river, only one powerful illusion. Number 8. The Ride of the Valkyries scene. Took 6 weeks to film that 5-minute helicopter attack? It took 6 weeks to shoot, not because of effects, because of timing. Coppola wanted the music and the action to sync perfectly. So every explosion, every soldier jumping, every turn of the chopper had to hit exactly on the music's beat. They filmed the helicopters first, flying in formation to a hidden speaker blasting Wagner. Then they filmed the beach, soldiers reacting, running, falling to the same music track. Then they filmed the Viet Cong side, panicked, confused, overwhelmed. In editing, they wove it all together. One missed cue, and the whole thing fell apart. What looks like chaos was carefully choreographed ballet. Number 7. Martin Sheen wrote parts of his own journal. Willard's voiceover, quiet, thoughtful, haunted, reads like poetry. Much of it was written by Sheen himself. Coppola gave him a real journal and said, "Write as Willard, every night, don't hold back." So Sheen did. He wrote about guilt, about war, about loneliness. Some entries were so raw, Coppola cried reading them. One line, "Never get out of the boat, absolutely goddamn right," was pure Sheen, scribbled at 2 a.m. after a nightmare. They typed his words into the script. His voice, shaky and low, became the soul of the film. Not just narration, but confession. Number 6. The fog in Kurtz's compound was made from burnt coconut husks. When Willard finally reaches Kurtz's temple, thick fog curls around the ruins. It looks mystical, ancient, like the jungle is breathing. But it wasn't fog machines. It wasn't dry ice. The crew burned coconut husks, piled high, soaked in water, smoldering for hours. The smoke was thick, sweet, and heavy, just like jungle mist. Local workers taught them the trick. Burn slow, let it rise. They even added damp leaves for color, greenish-gray, like sickness and wisdom mixed. You can almost taste it in the air. No studio effect, only local wisdom. Number 5. A real general played the Playboy Bunny, General. The eccentric Army general who gives Willard his mission, calm, polite, surrounded by maps and soft lighting, was played by a real U.S. Army general, General Robert E. Cushman, Jr., former Commandant of the Marine Corps. He wasn't an actor. He'd never been in a film. But Coppola wanted authenticity. He met Cushman at a dinner, asked him on a whim, and the general said yes. He showed up, wore his own uniform, spoke his lines slowly, and added tiny details. How he folded his hands, how he paused before terminate with extreme prejudice. He even corrected the script's military terms. No actor, only real authority. Number 4, the final shot, Willard walking away, was filmed at dawn. After a sleepless night, the last image of the film, Willard walking into the jungle, villagers bowing, Kurtz's final words echoing, the horror, was shot at sunrise. But the night before, chaos. The generator failed. The cameras overheated. Brando argued about his lighting. Sheen was exhausted. They reset 9 times. Just as the sky began to lighten, Coppola whispered, "One more. Let's make it quiet." They rolled. Sheen walked. The villagers bowed. For real, they believed in the ritual. The camera lingered. Then, silence. Coppola didn't yell, "Cut." He just let it run until the light was gone. That final take? It's the one in the movie, not rehearsed, only felt. Number 3. The entire soundtrack was mixed in complete darkness. After filming ended, sound designer Walter Murch and Coppola locked themselves in a studio in San Francisco for weeks. To focus on sound alone, they turned off all the lights. No screens, no visuals, just headphones, reels of tape, and total blackness. They listened to helicopter blades, jungle crickets, whispered dialogue, dripping water, and shaped them into a symphony of war and madness. Murch said, "When you can't see, your ears open wide." In the dark, they discovered the heartbeat under the movie, the pulse of fear, awe, and dread. You hear it in every scene. No visuals, only pure listening. Number 2. Coppola spent his own money and risked bankruptcy. The studio gave Coppola a budget. He blew past it, fast, sets destroyed, delays, Brando's fees, helicopter rentals, medical emergencies. By the end, he had spent over $30 million, mostly from his own pockets. He mortgaged his house. He sold his vineyard shares. He borrowed from friends. If the movie failed, he'd be ruined. His wife sold her jewelry to help feed the crew. One investor backed out at the last minute, so Coppola begged his father, the composer Carmine Coppola, to delay his retirement and score the film for less. The old man said yes. No safety net, only faith. Chapter Number 1. The movie wasn't finished until hours before its premiere. The Cannes Film Festival. 1979. Apocalypse Now was scheduled to premiere, in competition, on May 19th. But on May 18th, the final edit still wasn't done. Editors worked all night. Technicians spliced film by hand. Coppola paced, chain-smoking, rewriting the ending on napkins. At 6 a.m., they loaded the reels into a van. At 8 a.m., the plane took off, film canisters strapped into passenger seats. At 11:45 a.m., the reels arrived at Cannes, damp from the flight, still warm from the projector test. At 12 noon, the lights dimmed, and the first frame flickered to life. The audience had no idea. The glue on the final splice was still drying. No polished finish, only raw, beating heart. Bonus fact: the lost ending, where Willard joins Kurtz's tribe. Few people know this. There was another ending filmed, and then hidden. In it, after killing Kurtz, Willard doesn't walk away. Instead, he stays. The villagers place Kurtz's carved staff into his hands. They shave his head. They paint his face. He sits on the throne, silent, still, becoming the new god of the compound. Coppola shot it. He even tested it with audiences. But something felt wrong. It was too neat, too mythic, too final. He realized the real horror wasn't becoming Kurtz. It was returning to the world, carrying that darkness inside. So he cut it, locked the footage away. For decades, fans wondered, what happened to Willard? In 2012, a restored version, Apocalypse Now, Redux, included part of this scene, but only as a glimpse. Willard kneeling, the staff at his feet. But he walks away. The full tribal coronation remains buried, like a secret in the jungle. One small choice changed movie history. Apocalypse Now isn't really about Vietnam. It's about what happens when we stare too long into the dark and see ourselves looking back. It's about how thin the line is between order and chaos, between duty and madness, between telling a story and living it. Coppola didn't just make a war movie, he made a mirror. And in that mirror, we see courage, not the kind with bullets and flags, but the quiet, trembling kind. The courage to keep going when everything falls apart, to trust your vision, to listen in the dark, to believe, even when the storm hits, that something beautiful can come from the wreckage. If you enjoyed these stories, subscribe for more. Every movie hides a truth, and we'll keep uncovering them, one story at a time.